you so much for being here and continuing to support my channel. Please take a moment, if you haven't already, and just go hit the subscribe button so that I can continue to create content for all of you. We'll go ahead and get started today at the back of our mats in Child's Pose or Malasana. We'll take a wider stance with the legs and the knees, taking the big toes together, making some space for the belly bowl, and extending the fingertips to the top of the mat. Allow yourself not to feel rushed today as you practice through the flow itself or any of the individual postures. Give yourselves permission to take things slow, at your own pace, feeling your body and your mind as you go. If you haven't already, maybe start to flutter the eyes closed or soften the gaze. If there's space in your practice, bringing the forehead to the mat. And then checking in with the breath. Bringing more attention and mindfulness to our inhales and exhales by taking in more air on each inhale and each exhale, letting a little more out. Start to notice the belly on your inhales, taking up all of that space between the thighs and the mat. Maybe even noticing the side bodies expanding and pressing against the insides of your thighs. And take one more round of breath here. And then on your next inhale, go ahead and slide the palms under the shoulders, separating the toes and bringing the knees hip distance apart, coming to neutral tabletop. Internally rotating the hands just enough so that the fingertips are pointing more towards each other. So we're not pivoting the fingertips all the way inward. And then go ahead and curl your toes under, bring the hips towards the heels. Inhale as you come forward, bring the shoulders a little bit beyond the fingertips. Exhale, come back. Again, moving a few more times with your own body, your own breath. Giving some love to our wrists before we practice. As you come forward that last time, we'll pause for a moment. Externally rotate the arms so the fingertips come towards the longer sides of the mat. Again, not all the way out. We don't want the wrists shining in towards each other all the way. Just taking the fingertips kind of diagonal from the long sides of the mat. And then again, go ahead, send the hips back and forward. Following your own breath. Good. This time as you send the hips back, slide the knees together, find a seal between your legs, keep the toes curled, walk the hands towards the knees. We'll sit tall, coming to toes pose. Just shake up the wrists and the hands for a moment. Maybe making some fists, flexing the fingers. Good. And then releasing the palms back down to the mat. We'll uncurl the toes here. Come to a more restful child's pose. So this time we'll rest the belly on the thighs, release the forehead to the mat. And then extend the fingertips towards the back of your mat. Bringing some swaying to the knees, the hips, and even the forehead will rock from side to side. And as you find stillness, pause here for 2 more breaths. If you'd like, clasping the hands behind the back, and then lifting the arms and fingers for a shoulder stretch. Good. On your next inhale, we'll all meet back in neutral tabletop. Shoulders stack over the wrists. Inhale here, we'll draw the belly towards the mat. Lift the gaze, lift the tailbone for cow. Exhale as you round for cat. One more time, lift. And exhale, round. Good, come back to neutral tabletop. Take a moment to pay attention to the parts of the hand you're pressing your weight into. So we really want to aim for the thumb and the index finger, that space between. Go ahead, curl your toes under. Inhale, lift the knees and shins and hover here. Starting to fire up the core. Engage the legs. Check in with your knees, see if you can lower down just a little bit more. Pull the shoulders away from the ears. One more inhale. As you exhale, send the heels towards the mat, lift through the hips, downward facing dog. Instead of walking it out today, we're going to go ahead, come high up onto the toes, and then pivot the heels towards the right corner of the mat. So we're taking the feet and the heels diagonal from one another. Pressing into the palms still, lengthening through the backs of the legs. Then on your next inhale, come high up onto the toes, move through center. This time heels come towards the left corner of the mat. One more time, inhale up onto the toes, over to the right. And last time, over to the left. Make your way back to a neutral spine, feet about hip distance apart. Take the gaze towards your toes. We'll walk the hands all the way there, finding forward fold. Take a bend at the knees, press into the heels as you roll yourself up one vertebrae at a time. Head and neck come up last. Palms come together overhead. Inhale as you lengthen, bump the hips forward, engage the core. Exhale, hands to heart center. Hinge at your hips, we'll fold forward. From here, start to walk your hands to the top of your mat. We'll find high plank. Take a moment to set yourself up. Bring the feet together. Shoulders stacked over the wrists. Start to engage the core a little bit more. Driving that belly button up to the ribs. And we'll just take a few hip dips here from left to right, making this a little bit stronger. Come back to center, we'll find stillness. Rock forward even more off the toes. Bend at the elbows, lower all the way down. As you uncurl the toes, take them to the back corners of your mat, palms to the top corners. Inhale for seal pose. Exhale, bend at your elbows, lower and tap your forehead. Slide the palms under your shoulders. Slide the feet back together, curl your toes. Inhale to high plank. Rock forward over the fingertips, bend at the elbows. This time we'll lower for chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Glutes are engaged here, squeezing the legs, pointing the toes. broadening at the shoulders and the collarbones. Good. On your next exhale, roll over the toes, lift the hips. Downward facing dog. Right heel stays, left heel lifts. Bending your knee will stack left hip on top of right, finding half wild thing. Allowing yourself to hear that breath, holding it here, keeping the weight as even as we can in the left and right hands. Slowly start to pivot with the hips, draw the knee towards your chest, hover here. One more inhale, flex your left foot. See if you can step between the hands without peeling both of the hands or fingertips off of the mat. Right knee comes down, right toes stay curled. Inhale, fingertips overhead. Asana or low lunge. Reach the right fingertips to the back wall, left fingertips in front of you. Still sinking into your lunge. Stay here, see if you can reach the right hand to your right leg, left fingertips overhead. Good, one more inhale here. One more exhale, squeeze the core. Arms come back up and overhead. Power move, press into the left heel, press into the right toes, lift the right knee. Keeping a little bit more of a bend in that back leg. Taking a strong crescent lunge. One more inhale. One more exhale. Release the hands down to the mat. Coming to a balancing posture from here, press into the left heel. Float the right toes off of the mat. Warrior 3. See if you can stay where you are. Maybe reach the right fingertips towards the back wall, stamping the right foot. Core is engaged. Good. When you're ready, release the fingertips back down. Start to bend into your left knee. Right knee comes behind the left ankle or the left calf, down to the mat. Taking a twist. So that right heel will come in towards the sit bones, the left foot's pointing towards the top of the mat. And then two choices, you can either wrap the right arm around left, taking the left fingertips behind you, or you can take the right tricep, connect it to the left thigh, and then reach the left fingertips behind. Once you're in a twist, inhale to lengthen. Exhale to deepen the twist. Start to unwind yourself. We'll come back to the top of the mat. Using the left hand, send your left leg all the way back, coming to pigeon pose. Right shin and right knee are in front. Palms come to the mat or maybe the fingertips. And taking this posture as deep as you can, whatever works for you. Maybe coming into sleeping pigeon. And then as you're here, thinking about lowering that left hip down a little bit more. Increasing the sensation in the right hip. From here, walk the hands back under the palms, back under the shoulders, not under the palms. Lengthen through the arms, and then we'll pause for 1 or 2 more rounds of breath in pigeon, either staying where you are or seeing if you can leave the left hand and reach the right hand towards the back of your left leg. Kind of like a twist and a back bend. And we'll start to unwind, making our way back to high plank. Curl the left toes, lift your knee, squeeze the belly. Right foot comes back to meet left. Clean yourself back up. Set up for high plank. Shoulders away from the mat. Pressing into that space between the thumb and index finger. Nice big breath in. Big breath out. We'll lower halfway for chaturanga. Inhale, plank. One more. Lower down for chaturanga. Inhale, plank. This time we'll do kind of a half push-up. Elbows come into the ribs, lower all the way down. Toes come to the back corners of the mat. Hands to the top. Inhale for seal pose. Don't be afraid to take loud breaths, especially if you're practicing in your own home or your own space. It feels really good to take those big exhales. Excuse me. Now go ahead, bring the elbows into the ribs, lower and tap your forehead. Slide palms under the shoulders, feet come together. Curl your toes, inhale to high plank. And exhale, we'll lift the hips, draw the heels towards the mat. This time, left heel stays, right heel lifts, stacking the right hip on top of left, finding half wild thing. Same thing here, being mindful of the weight in both hands. Controlling the breath. We'll start to pivot the hips. Take the right knee towards your heart and chest. See if you can flex your foot here. We'll hover for a moment. As you step your foot forward, see if you can do so without lifting the palms. Left knee comes down, the toes stay curled. Inhale, reach your fingertips overhead. Anjaneyasana or low lunge. Keep lengthening through the fingertips here. Sink a little bit deeper into your lunge. And then take the left fingertips behind you, right come in front. Staying here or releasing the left hand to the left leg. Right arm overhead. Good. One more inhale here. Squeeze the core. Arms come up and over. We'll frame that front foot. Coming into our power move, lifting the left knee, pressing into the right heel as well as the left toes. Inhale and lift the fingertips overhead. And we'll find a little bit more of a bend in the left knee, making this stronger. I'm already starting to shake. Come back to your breath. One more round. As you exhale, frame your right foot. Coming into our balancing posture, press into the right heel, slide the left toes off of the mat. Warrior 3. Taking any variation with the arms that works for you in your practice. Wherever you are, breathing in for one more inhale. Exhale for one more. Release the hands. Bend at your right knee. Left knee comes behind your right calf. Start to come to that seated twist. This time the left heel will come towards the sit bones. Right toes face the front of the mat. Take whatever variation works for you with the left arm. And then reach the right fingertips behind you. Inhale to sit tall, lengthen through your spine. Exhale to deepen. From here, we'll turn towards the top of our mats. Use the right hand to send the right leg behind you, coming to pigeon pose. Again, taking your time to get there. We're in no rush. Finding the variation that works for you. Maybe coming deeper into sleeping pigeon. And thinking about dropping that right hip down a little bit more. Soften through your face. Start to walk the hands back under the shoulders. We'll be here for 2 more breaths. Or if you'd like, take it deeper. Right hand stays. Left hand comes to the back of the right leg. And from here, we'll release the left hand down as well as the right. Curl the right toes, lift your knee. Squeeze the core, the left foot comes back to meet right, high plank. This time we'll take a few rocks forward and back. Giving the love to our wrists, the bottoms of our feet, our toes. And then on that last rock forward, we'll hold for a moment. Shoulders are just beyond the fingertips. One more inhale. As you exhale, bend the elbows, lower down. One last seal pose to inhale. Exhale, lower and tap the forehead. Palms come under the shoulders. Curl the toes. Inhale, high plank. Exhale, down dog. From here, we'll take the gaze towards the hands. Option to walk, step, or float your way to the top of the mat. If you're in forward fold, hanging out there for a moment. If you took handstand, floated to the top of the mat, meeting us here now. Let the head and neck be heavy. Clasp the hands behind the back. Lengthen through the arms and fingertips and lift. We'll take a deep shoulder stretch. As we're hanging out here, we're going to start to heel toe the feet a little wider than hip distance apart. And then the toes will be angled out a little bit wider than the heels. Making our way to Malasana or Yogi squat. Start to bend into the knees first, lowering the hips. When you're ready, release the hands. And then you can either reach out in front of you, rest the backs of the arms on the knees, or take the hands to heart center. Even though we're in a squat, still thinking about finding a long spine. We'll be here for just a few breaths, so hang out, hold on to it. Settle the mind. It's okay if the heels lift off of the mat. Take one more inhale where you are. One more exhale. Reach the fingertips in front of you if you aren't already. And see if you can slowly and gently plop your sit bones down to the mat. Slide your feet together. Nice big squeeze. Good. And then we'll take the hands behind the legs, underneath the knees, and just roll backwards. Maybe taking a few rocks forward and back as you get here. Holding on to the right knee, we'll extend the left leg. Big breath in, big breath out. Good, go ahead and switch sides. And release the left leg to meet right. And take both hands to the belly, relaxing the shoulders, the back, and settling through the face, maybe closing the eyes. Just allowing ourselves a few moments in our day to rest and recover, knowing that we need both parts of our practice, the strengthening, the stretching, the rest. The video will end on its own. Please feel free to stay here as long as you need. Be pausing the video or just closing your computer and resting for a few more moments.